Welcome to the podcast of School Beyond Limitations. In this podcast, you will learn how to guide your child through their school life with the intention to help them find their unique essence that will allow your daughter, your son to live a fulfilled and meaningful life.
Hello everyone, welcome to my new video. Back again after a long time. And today we have Craig Andrew, one of the facilitators of SBL, and he will be joining us sharing about his life story, how he got involved in helping humanity and how he spent a lot of time with humans and maybe spread the love and give us inspirations to stand for the sake of humanity and do something good for this world. Before I let him in, he was the founder of President's Award NGO, which is a well-known NGO in South Africa. He is originally from Britain, but he lives in South Africa now for quite a long time. And maybe we will get to know him better if once I make join him. Hello? Hello.
Hello,
Okay.
Nayeef.
Good evening, or yeah, it's good evening for you, right?
No, afternoon actually, but that's
Oh,
fine.
yeah,
Thank
good
you.
afternoon.
Thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving your time. So let's start with the basics. So tell me about yourself a little bit.
Okay, well, I'm South African. I am first generation South African. My grandparents were British, and they came out here, and I was conceived here, and I'm now South African. Although I've lived for 14 years in the UK, recently come back to South Africa, and very happily back in this country. But I went to school in this country. I attended university, and I was very lucky to be given the position, or offered, I guess, as a teacher. I'd taught for 10 years, and in my 10th year, I was offered an NGO to run. Okay, so it was a very fledgling little NGO called the Gold Shield Award, and I was asked if I would take it national and make it something much bigger than it was on a national scale. And that eventually became known as the President's Award. And well, it was a roller coaster ride. So I've spent 30 odd years dealing with young people, empowering young people, and taking them through what is largely known in the world as the Duke of Edinburgh International Award.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as you already mentioned about the Duke of Edinburgh Award, in SBL we also started this School Beyond Challenge, which is similar to the Duke of Edinburgh Award, and we are undergoing this for quite a long time now. Maybe Craig, would you like to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So let me just go back to, so when I was at school, I used to get involved in the outdoor education side of, young people's lives. And that's how really I got interested in the Duke of Edinburgh Award. It wasn't called that in our country, it's called the Gold Shield Award. And, the headmaster turned to me and said, look, would you do this thing called the Gold Shield Award? It takes kids on expeditions. It gets them involved in a sport, a service, and a skill. I thought, oh, it's quite a neat thing. I was into outdoor education. I was the geography teacher and phys ed master, and I rather enjoyed that. So that's how I got involved in it. I got onto a local committee and eventually onto the national committee. We had some really prominent people, politicians then, and this was in the early 1980s. So it was in apartheid times. And we were reaching out into our indigenous populations, our Black population. So it was quite cutting edge at that stage. Our security police never really allowed us to do that as white people, but we were doing this. So we were reaching out to all people across the cultural spectrum and getting them involved in this type of program. And then, oh gosh, I think it was in 1986 or 87, they said, look, would you like to take this on as a national program? And I said, yes. So I left teaching per se in the classroom, traditional teaching, and I went into the outdoor education field, which is really what this program does. It takes people into the outdoors and gets them involved in, as I said, a sport, a service, a skill, and a journey of some sort, an expedition. And so we offered this across the board to hundreds and hundreds of young people, mainly through their schools, and we trained up the teachers to be the assessors and the coaches. And young people went through this program and they got a certification at the end. And the nice thing about getting a certificate at the end of doing a 6, 12, 18-month program is that it gives them something, it improves their self-worth. So young people then have, feel good about themselves. They've learned a new skill. They've done an expedition with a group of people. They've learned a new sports skill, and they've done some community service for some people, elderly people or their own families. And so it gave them something to talk about, not only feel good about themselves, but they could talk about this with passion because they had learned these new things and it made them grow as people. And this was quite significant. And, in the years that I was the CEO of the President's Award program, I managed to convince Nelson Mandela, he wasn't the president yet, but before he became president, to become the patron. And essentially, I worked for Nelson Mandela. He became my patron, and he drove the program with me into the prison program. We ran at that stage, in the sort of mid-90s, the best young offender program in the whole world. So we took recidivism rates in South African prisons from roughly 80%. So this is this is young people that actually recommit a crime once they're released. Okay, recidivism. We took it down to less than 10%. So we were saying in the last 3 to 4 years of your prison term as a young offender, if you did the award program, when you left prison, it had a positive influence on those young people. They suddenly were part of a group that was actively improving themselves, that interacted with a member of staff in prison that actually believed in them and was a sort of a father figure, dare I say. And so they left prison saying, well, I've got a future ahead of me. I'm not just a criminal. I'm not just branded as this criminal, and I have skills that I've learned. And it actually proved that we could bring the reoffending rate right down to less than 10%, which is an astonishing figure. But it was the biggest prison program that we had. And I visited prisons all over Africa when I was regional director for Africa. And it is quite appalling how young people are just put into prison and forgotten. And of course, their reoffending rate, and they become more criminalized in prison. So that was a massive, big, massive positive for me out of what I had done. Other than in my time running the President's Award in South Africa, I put over 100,000 young people across the board in South Africa through this program, and successfully they got their certificates and they went on, and many of them have got jobs as a consequence of this. I was then tasked with running a global gathering of the Duke of Edinburgh Award in Cape Town, and we did this in early 2000. I think it was even 2000, 2001. We had about 82 countries attend. The Duke of Edinburgh came, the Earl of Wessex, that's Prince Edward, and of course Nelson Mandela. And we had an amazing 10 days of activities. As I said, 82 countries participating, all sharing good practice, and us showing off a little bit of what we had done in South Africa. On the back of that, they promoted me and offered me a position as regional director for Africa. I did that for 7 years. Once again, 42 countries in Africa do this award program. Gosh, I mean, the typical thing I used to do, okay, I was in a management position, a leadership position. I would go into a country. I would then meet the award operators, people that ran the award, and I would go and see the president, because normally the president is the patron of the program in that country. So I would fly in, meet the president, talk about his role and how it was going. I would then meet the ministers that were involved in it, and then on day 3, I would go into the street and meet the kids that were doing the program. So I mean, I got a massive picture of what it was like in the opulence of the presidential palaces and that, the ministers' privileged positions, and then you go down into the street and you just see the abject poverty, and actually the real delight on kids that just they're getting this lift up in life, this uplifting experience. So I found that sort of thing fascinating for myself, and I got to see presidents and meet people, and I got to take the Earl of Wessex and his wife Sophie on many trips around Africa. I mean, yeah, in private jets, and in in a very privileged way, living in the best hotels, but actually showing off and promoting the award program in a way that we couldn't have done without those sort of personalities endorsing it. And we got then endorsements and money from governments that way. I was then, after 7 years, was asked if I'd be the 2IC of the international award. So the Duke of Edinburgh Award, I was promoted once again to Executive Director for Global Development and Fundraising. And I raised about £5 to £6 million a year. And we ran this program throughout the 126 countries in the world that do it. I raised in my time there, I spent 8 years there, and I raised over £52 million, which was spent on young people across the board. We kickstarted the award in America. It was floundering there. I went to China and tried to start it there. We weren't that successful because of their ideology, obviously, around it. They wanted to make it compulsory across the board, and we said, no, it's a voluntary program, and young people should be able to volunteer and opt in and opt out as they go. The Chinese authorities said they can't manage it. So it's either compulsory or they won't do it. So that was a bit of a pity. Brazil and in Europe, European countries. So we started the program and drove it through and grew it from, I think when I started, about 100 countries to about 126 by the time I'd left. So we'd grown it quite a lot. So yeah, I've had an amazing experience. I've met presidents. I've been wined and dined. I've worked for the Duke of Edinburgh. I've worked for Nelson Mandela. I mean, hey, what a life, eh? And I've helped young people all over the world.
I'm sure you had a wonderful time, and now you're helping us to have a wonderful time in the future ahead. And I made 3 points from what I've listened to you. Number one, you said grow as a people, right? These kind of challenges or kind of certificate or whatever is helping us to grow as a people. Do you mean that we actually learn more from physical actions than just studying at home the books? Do we need to have the actions in us?
I absolutely believe that. Getting your hands dirty. In other words, when we talk about doing community service, you've got to get your hands dirty. It's an idea that you should be going out there rather than doing collections. A lot of Western world say, oh, I want to help people in Africa or in Asia or whatever, and they do a collection and they send their money or their goods. I believe that you've got to get involved, man. You've got to see the people in their eyes. You've got to then empathize with them and really understand, and then you can help. So I always encourage young people to get their hands dirty, get involved, rather than do a collection or whatever. Get down there, go to the shelter, go and meet the street children, go and help them, even if it's just to comfort them. That was always what I wanted. And, the certificate is what it is. I mean, it's a certificate, but actually it's the stories behind it. It's how you uplift yourself. This is all about self-directed upliftment. You decide on what you want to do. That's the beauty of this program. And we're offering this program at SBL now. So, you choose what you want to get involved in. I don't tell you what to do. You choose the passions of your service and your skill and your expedition, and you do what you want to do, but you do it for yourself. And you spend as much time as you want to, or as little time as you want to, but you do it regularly. And we try and change habits over time by regular involvement. And, if all it does for young people that choose it in SBL is that it makes them feel good about themselves, it makes them feel that they've gained experiences and they've grown in the process, that's what we want to do. So the certificate is just a manifestation of what you've done, but actually the experiences are what you will talk about, and that's how you will grow your personality and your skill levels.
And also it helps us to be more open towards different cultures and religions and regions, Last week we were talking about cultures, and it's just we are diving into the cultures, actually knowing how the people are and looking at their beauties, feeling them. The connection that we get physically is something different than just raising the fund and giving it to someone else.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nayeef. I mean, you've got to make connections, and they're physical connections. I mean, you've got to see, experience, and get out there and do it. I think. You can, in theory, do a lot of this, and some people have to because of circumstance, or they can't travel maybe. And that doesn't preclude you from actually getting involved in a program like this. But if you can possibly get out there and just, get down and do it. You can't do a sport, for instance, you can't learn a sport by just reading the theory. I think you've got to go and get involved and participate, because then that's how you learn. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's good always to have a mindset, clear mindset, what we are going to do, but putting it into action is actually when the challenge really starts. And it's actually when you know a lot about yourself and others as well, what we are going through. And you learn more, you stretch yourself and you learn and you grow. To my second
Yeah,
point, you mentioned that you managed to do like a program where the prisoners used to get involved into such challenges and get out of their past lives and start their new life again. That leads me to the kind of the quote that life deserves a second chance, everyone deserves a second chance, and they can be better
I
version of
agree.
themselves. So was it the purpose of it? So to actually get them know themselves better, what they really want, and bring out their best person or personality out of themselves? Was this the ideology behind this, or was it something different?
Yeah, well, I had a lot of discussion with Nelson Mandela about this, and I mean, he was instrumental in changing the prison system for us because we used to, before I had him involved, and I was doing the Gold Shield Award program, we used to wait for hours outside prisons to get in. I mean, the prison authorities did not want outsiders coming in to deal with the young offenders, so it was really difficult. And when he became our patron and he was the president, he just changed that. He put young offenders in their own areas. So he separated them from the adult offenders, which was a fantastic first step. And then he allowed us access. He gave us national access into the prison. So, we'd go up and say, look, we're from the President's Award, and we'd be allowed straight in. And the young people would be waiting. And of course, the warders would be given instructions that they must get involved with us. They must invest their time with young offenders. And I always, over time, used to think, well, what is so good about this program? What is the magic that makes this recidivism rate come down, this reoffending rate come down to globally staggeringly good figures? Because I mean, if you talk to any country, they say the recidivism rates are 50% and over. How do you get young people that have been caught in criminal acts that get sent to prison because that's the knee-jerk reaction of society? Let's not give them a second chance. Let's sentence them, put them in prison. They in prison with other criminals, and they become criminalized in the gangs there and that sort of thing. So how do you change that philosophy? And I mean, I've given a lot of thought to this, and I think it was because we separated them. They were within their own right, and I'm sure there were influences on them as well from other young offenders. But the nice thing is, towards the end of their sentence, they were given this chance to recreate themselves in a way was more positive. And they had positive influences from adults. And these were the warders. Okay, they were their jailers, but these warders would go on expeditions with them and would laugh with them and teach them skills. And I think that was the magic, because that suddenly someone in their life showed an interest in them as an individual. And actually their self-confidence improved and their outlook on life improved. So when they left prison, they were suddenly saying, well, actually, I'm quite good at doing some things. I don't have to be a criminal, and I can join this group outside that also does the award program. So I can actually join with them, and I'm not labeled because I'm now a bronze or silver or gold award holder. So suddenly it was very positive for them. And I think that was the magic. We used to have, annual meetings of the warders just to talk about how it went and what was working, what wasn't. And we used to have adults crying in these sessions to say that they just, their job had changed so much, because before we introduced the award program, what used to happen is that they used to just lock these kids up for most of the day. They thought they were rubbish. Society told them that they were rubbish, and that was their view of them. And suddenly they were interacting with them, and they were realizing these kids actually were just like their kids at home. They wanted the same aspirations. They wanted to get out of this negative cycle they were in. They wanted the second chance, as you say. And wow, it changed their lives as warders, as jailers, and it changed the lives of these kids. And that was just quite inspirational for me to witness. I mean, to see the change in adults, not only the change in the kids. Yeah.
And I think it's really inspirational for all the people who are watching it at this very moment, because you see, they were obviously mistreated somehow, that they
Yeah.
were kind of forced to get involved in such sort of crimes or something. So these kind of challenges really help us to get to know us better, what we are good at, and show the real beauty that we are possessing inside. And I think
Yeah.
it's a really good practice of knowing yourself and giving time to yourself. Self-love is also really important as loving others.
I fully agree. Fully
Yeah,
agree. Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah. We all have talents inside us, don't we? And sometimes they are just pushed down and hidden. And it needs someone. It needs a mentor. It needs an adult. It needs someone just to bring it out with you. It could be your friend even, just to say, "Hey, Naif, I see that you're a really happy character, and I mean, look how well you get on with those people. Whatever it is." And then suddenly you say, "Wow, okay, that's a skill I've got. I didn't realize I was doing that." And you just need that affirmation, and then suddenly your whole character comes out, and it can change your life. Yeah,
that's why feedback is really important in a person's life. We want feedback. We need feedback to kind of change the things that are just not going well with ourselves, and maybe
yeah,
take inspirations from others. And we need people like you, and I'm sure many people in SBL, who are really wanting us kids to be more educated, not study, kind of, yeah, get educated and become more wise and more active to play a better role in humanity, for the sake of humanity. And I think you
yeah.
you facilitators from SBL, I know no one else, but I will just talk about this school, are really doing that perfectly. I'm using the word perfectly because we have the feedback sessions, we have the learnings, together learnings, teachers and students all together, and we have just the kind of not mocking each other, instead showing the mistake and doing
Mm,
something better out of it, and always seeing the positive. And these are really affecting us students to actually not think ourselves as losers, but to stand for what is right, and get an understanding what to do and what not to do. And I think we need these sort of educations all throughout the world to kind of let them know that you are worth of something, not you're not a loser. And I'm
absolutely. Yeah.
sure slowly these crime cases will get lesser and lesser day by day, because kids normally don't want, or any human don't want crimes or negatives. It's just the situation that we are
Well,
into.
well, yeah, agreed. But you guys are the solution. I mean, we cannot be, well, the older generation. We've moved through the cycle, so you guys are coming through, and you have to be the solution. You have to start to think about ways of tackling the global issues. These, sustainable millennium goals, the MDGs, development goals. There 17 of them. We have to get our head around those. How are we going to get clean water for everyone? How are we going to get decent education, jobs? Stop this conflict in the world. All these major issues are global, and we can't be national about them. They're not national problems. They are global problems, and so global citizenship is important. And this idea that we believe in ourselves and we must believe in others, and we must see the goodness in others, and we must try and bring that out. What I love about SBL is, this idea that it's self-student directed learning. It's a bit like this program we were talking about, is that you choose to, it's voluntary. You're choosing to get involved in SBL. You're choosing to do the subjects you want to do. You're choosing to engage and make your choices. And I love that, because actually that's about the passion, isn't it? There's some things that you go through in traditional schools that, oh, you're forced to, and it's so boring. Why do you have to do those things? Whereas this allows you the choices to make to improve your life and for you to grow as a person in the way you want to grow.
That's for sure. And as you were mentioning that we are the solutions, I believe that every solutions needs like a path to kind of follow. So you people are actually the creator of these theories that we will be learning and following through. And maybe in the future, depending on situations, we might create new formulas, but it's more like maths. You have to do the previous solutions first to kind of come up with a new solution with it. And I think SBL is doing a pretty good job, and you facilitators, I'm always grateful for everyone who I have been with and I will be with in the future. And there's so much to learn from around the globe, and even outside your doorstep, even a person who is walking by can be inspirational. It's how you see it, it's how you view it. And when we are
Absolutely.
calling,
Yeah.
yeah, and when we are calling people for humanity, when we just say that, oh, work for humanity, it's good for people, it's good for the world, that doesn't really affect people anymore, because people are used to these kind of words. We need to start with an action first, which is interesting and also inspiring for others. For example, you started with the prison thing, and you were slowly letting people into these kind of activities, and slowly you are changing the world. We need these sort of creative ideas where people will be interested and they will be seeing or viewing a clear position of themselves, that we are in a secure position at a specific time, so we must be undergoing
Sure.
this. Yeah, so
Yeah, and I think, now if we've got to get away from this idea that what can I do? This feeling that little o me sitting in this world of billions and billions of people, I can't do anything. China is too big. America's too big. They polluting and they doing all the bad things in the world. It's rubbish. We can make a difference just by being positive ourselves, with our family, with our friends, and just actually being an actively positive person in the world. If we all just changed our mind to be positive, kind, helpful, empathetic, the world would change tomorrow. But we don't. We have all these negative biases and these negative feelings towards others and different cultures and different people. And yeah, we've got to stop that. The world's got to change its mindset and say, let's do positive, affirmative action going forward that will help the world and help humanity to grow as a species. And let's save this world of ours. I mean, we have to do it.
I mean, let's see in a way that we are now putting ourselves in, even if you're wanting to do something good, because of the society that I see people throwing trash on the streets, and I do it because I feel a pressure that everyone is doing around me, and I'm the only odd one,
Sure.
which is like picking it off. But what if we kind of, those who are willing to learn and willing to change themselves, they will do it just by seeing others. They will do it just by listening to others. And once we start doing it, the minority of group that are not doing it will feel the pressure to do it, because that's how we humans are made. We do whatever we see around us. The majority, we
Sure.
focus more on the majority. So if majority people would want to do it willingly, then the minority group will surely get involved into it and make this world a better place.
Well, I honestly believe we're all born, pure and good. And even though people do bad things, they know they're doing bad things. I mean, I'm saying generally across the board. So yes, if you see someone throwing trash out or doing something, uh, try and understand the situation. Why are they doing that? What has led something in their life? Try and be empathetic. Try and understand what led them to want to do that, and maybe go and pick it up for a whole year. And eventually maybe that person will say, oh, okay, maybe I should be helping. And you might change that one person's view of what they're doing that was wrong in your eyes. But they didn't see it as being wrong, because they might see it as being someone else's job to pick up the rubbish. I don't know. But I think we need to actually just stop this idea that we categorize people into various cultures and various activities and various actions and say they're bad and good. No, the world isn't about bad and good. The world is about how we should get on together and cooperate.
For sure, agreed,
So,
agreed.
yeah,
Yeah, and we need to have that balance, that up to when I can do the positives, up to when I have to stop the negatives, and this balance actually makes it a lot better, because
yeah,
if I just keep calling people and become an extremist that you need to do this, you need to do that, then people would not feel encouraged to do that anymore. So we need to do it in such a manner that the language that we speak, they need to feel it. We need to hit them off with what we are speaking and doing, and
yeah.
show them we are doing the action. So you need to get into it.
I agree. Lead by example. So activism is important. I think it is very important that young people become active and are passionate about something. And you can just take one thing, but actually then you've got to lead by example. You've got to then be doing it yourself. So people see it in you all the time, and maybe you become known for that. Maybe it's that you don't ever use plastic for something, and that you go and make sure that plastic is never part of your shopping experience or your life. Whatever it is, just pick one thing. Even if we all just pick one thing in the world, there are billions of us. We could change. You know, they say you throw a ripple, a stone in upon this side of the world, and it ripples all the way through to the other side. Every action has a reaction.
Hmm.
So we one little thing, the flap of a wing of a butterfly, can cause a tornado at the other side of the world. Come on, we can all start something, but it's got to start in here in your mind. Yeah.
That's for sure. Well, I'm afraid that we are nearly at the end of the time, and I just want to keep going with these conversations. I just don't want to end it, but time we have to end it.
Well,
But
I'd like to just make an appeal. So if anyone's going to watch this, is to say to SBL, families, parents as well out there, encourage your young your children and young people to get involved in a program like Going Beyond Challenge. It's the Duke of Edinburgh Award in a different name. It's our own solution to challenging our people in School Beyond Limitations. Get involved, do it. It's really fun. And of course, it will make you grow. It'll allow you to express yourself. And I think it'll make you a much more interesting person. So let's try and get as many young people in the school to take part in this sort of challenge.
Yeah, and I would just
It's
want
an
to
opportunity, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would just thank you, Craig, for joining us and inspiring these people who will be watching this. I think your life is really inspiring, and we can really learn to be a global citizen and think about the globe. Obviously, it has to be starting from our own society, but slowly we can just move forward with it. And the best learning starts from us students or the children, the little kid, you know. So give them the proper education, not just force them to study. Give them the proper education, and then they will be, you know, doing the things that they have been learning from for such a long time, you know. Children
Yeah.
grow by listening and doing whatever they're doing from a very young age, and they will just do the actions in the future. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Don't hide your light under a bush. Let it shine. Let it come out. Let your real essence of who you are just come out. Don't you be bold in this world, man. Young people, they're just so inspiring to deal with. And I just want to see the best come out of them. So I encourage all young people, bring your essence out and let it shine.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, Craig, very much for joining us. And
A pleasure.
really
Thank
hope
you,
that,
Nayeef.
yeah, I really hope that I will see you again in another show of mine. I would really want to talk more about this global citizenship. Our next topic can be global citizenship, you know. I'm just so
Yeah,
afraid
it
that
is.
our time is like nearly at the end. So is there anything that you want to end this meeting with? Maybe just saying
No,
hello.
I'm happy with that. Thank you. That's really kind of you to have invited me on to tell my story, but also to try and encourage young people to actually invest in themselves and let their light shine. So I'm very pleased about that. Thank you, Nayeef.
Thank you very much for joining us, Craig.
And
Have a nice day. I wish you a great day.
okay, thank you. And you're
Goodbye.
a great example to young people yourself.
Thank you very much. It's all
Goodbye.
your inspiration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Well, maybe. Okay. Thank you very much, guys, for staying with us and watching this full video. I think it was really inspiring. I really wanted to spend more time with him, but couldn't really this time. But I would invite him in the next meeting and talk about global citizenship. That's a really important topic that I would really want to bring in front of you guys. And just, yeah, just be bold, be yourself, take part in these kind of challenges. SBL is also open for this sort of challenges. Recently, it's called a School Beyond Limitation Challenge, or Going Beyond Challenge, as mentioned by Craig. Take part in it, learn the true self, you know, learn the true education, not just study the books. Obviously, book study is really important, but we need to, learning is beyond that. It's huge. Learning is more than just book learning. So let's learn, let's enjoy the life. Thank you very much for watching it, and see you in the next video.
At School Beyond Limitations, we support our students find their unique essence. Feel free to share the content of this podcast with other parents. We are here to show that your children can, indeed, bring their unique essence into life. So, reach out to us if you think that this is what you'd like your daughter, your son to experience, or apply through our website. Also, leave your comments, your questions, or your review about the podcast. Share it with others. And as you know, sharing is caring.